Good morning. My iPad was dead, so we're going to try to maneuver this. And I'm tall, so I feel like I need a prop. So you bear with me as I try to. See, that's a little better. If you want to look at the picture I sent, please. I like to do a visual for the lesson. As a teacher, you get all kinds of kids in class, and you get all kinds of students who learn different ways. One thing that helps me, especially as I've aged, don't know that I guess I was this way as a kid. I don't really remember. But I like a visual. If I can see something, I have something to connect it to. So hopefully I sent it. I'm pretty sure I did. I heard Rhonda Ray's phone make a noise. So I think that's one way I know it kind of came through. But if you have it pulled up and you just examine the photo for just a minute, and you don't have to share right away, take a second to think about it if you haven't already looked at it. And if you have, what words come to mind? Inviting, happy, appreciation, different opinions, confused. Okay. Anything else? Well, who said appreciation? That was the word that I Googled, showing appreciation, the phrase. So I have a theme for this morning for the lesson. So hopefully I even view it as kind of a celebration. Would you? Looks like some people in the back are about to applaud kind of as they're talking to that person. But in Psalms 100 in verse 4, I'll read that to you. Psalms 104, enter into his gates with what? Thanksgiving, and into his courts with praise. And I love these next four words, and that's my goal this morning, to think about the deep appreciation that I should have to God. And I can only share personal examples. You have your own lives, your own levels of appreciation, I hope, that you experience from the Lord daily. Be thankful unto him and bless his name. Those two words, be thankful, sometimes they're hard to bring as the forefront of your mind because you're just human. But I've learned, aging to me, well, in my family, it's a gift you don't take for granted. But also, I have learned being thankful. That will sustain you with God's help when things are really, really tough. If you can refocus your mind and just think about the things you have in your life that you should be thankful for and appreciate, it can change your whole mindset. With each day of our lives, the experiences that we either encounter or we give to other people, you can think of it as you're building a narrative, a story of yourself. And when people repeat that story, what do they tell? You are building your own narrative every day. So am I building a narrative that shows that I have a thankful, appreciative heart? In that photo, to me, they look a little celebratory. And when I think about in life, I have a lot to be appreciative for, a lot to be thankful for. Every day of my life, if I'm being fair, I have a lot that I need to appreciate. For me, and when I reflect on God, he's been nothing but good to me. Absolutely nothing but good. And he is most deserving of my appreciation. In Hebrews 13 and 15, by him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God when times are good? No, we offer it continually. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. As you build your narrative in life, think of a narrative as a story. As you build your story that you're living before others, what are the fruit of your lips? What do people, when you hear a good story, sometimes you repeat it, don't you? Brother Dishman uses a lot of narrative in his preaching. He keeps your attention. It makes the message relatable. And you remember that. Let's just be fair. If I can build in a kid into a math problem or a story about life, do you think they're going to remember the math first or the story? They remember a story. That builds narrative. It keeps your attention. So as I build the narrative of my life, do people look at me and say, he has an appreciative spirit? He has a thankful heart. I only have breath, Brother Dale, because God allows it. And for Brother Dale, to me, has a very appreciative, grateful spirit. Not to embarrass him, but I feel that from him. He's just grateful of God's love, and I feel that too. I am appreciative of God's forgiveness. I'm thankful for his kindness. And I appreciate the victory that he'll give in our lives and just his simple goodness to me. Every day I am humbled by the fact that he is so good to me. And I think about this. My sister, Kathy, that battled pancreatic cancer, she told somebody one day, and she had been diagnosed with cancer, but she outlived her prognosis by 2 years. And she pretty much lived the majority of the 3 years. She's able to live and do and live pretty happily. But I remember her saying to somebody, she said, if I was on my knees every minute I had left that God gives me and I thanked him, it would not be enough. And that's how I feel. If I thanked him with every breath I have left in my body for the remainder of the days that he allows me to live, it would be less than he deserves. I appreciate him. But I wanted to know that I also appreciate his goodness. And I kind of want to invite each of you, not to necessarily share. If you feel so led at the end, that's up to you. But I'm not necessarily, that's not my goal, but you do whatever you feel led. But I do invite each of you as we think about the lesson that I have for today. I'll invite each of you to reflect on your own appreciation. What narrative are you building every day in life? What narrative am I building? I have to focus on me. I won't give an account for you. I give an account for who? Me. So as you reflect on your own appreciation, your own lives, and the many blessings that God's given you each day, I hope that as you reflect, you find that you have much to be thankful for. I'm sure we all know that intellectually, but does my narrative speak that? It's one thing for me to say it because I know in my brain I'm supposed to, and I know in my brain that I am, but does my life reflect it? Does my life reflect appreciation? Many people have suffered, I thought about during this storm, they've suffered a lot of loss. And it's really sad. And it's easy to say when your things are good, material things can be replaced. Well, that's an easy phrase to say when you got all your stuff. I mean, that's pretty easy. But it's a lot harder to swallow when you're the one who lost of most of what you hold materially valuable. And it makes me think of that verse, Matthew 6:20. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal, and there are no floods to wash it away. I'm very thankful that he can give us a treasure that we can appreciate. But does my narrative of my everyday life speak appreciation? A coworker of mine, this is a very sad true story. I'll be cautious since small town things are on here. I won't use names or anything. But a coworker of mine, this is a true story, had a family member who lost his home during the storm, and that poor man took his life. He felt like everything he'd worked for was gone, and to me that was so heartbreaking. It's easy to say the phrase, things can be replaced, when I haven't practically lost everything I own. And I'm not condoning his choice, but I feel so sorry for people who are experiencing that deep loss. It can test your appreciation, and it tests your narrative, what story you're living before other people. But thank God I've not encountered that. I'm not asking to encounter that. But I have found when you are struggling and when you feel deep hurt or deep loss, he really does bring you comfort. He really does give you something to appreciate. He can bring you joy in the midst of a very dark time. And we can realize that his love is the greatest treasure we can access, but do I show that appreciation? Does my narrative speak an appreciation before other people? Life situations are very challenging. And again, I'm asking you, if you wish, as I talk, to just reflect on your own experiences, your own narrative, your life story, so to speak, and the things you've experienced. But I can't share those. I can only share mine. So the most recent situation we faced as a family, would you think it's fun to drive 3 hours one way to go with a family member who's been diagnosed with cancer? Is that really what you wake up wanting to do? Well, no, that isn't really what you want to do. It can be very stressful. It can really wear on your mind, and it can wear on you physically. But you know what? This is what I have found. And I have an appreciation for God for this, more than I could ever express. He still gives you peace. Even though it hurts deeply to see a loved one dying, God will give you the grace you need to face that time of your life. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, and he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. And what I have found in my personal story, my narrative and my life of experiences that God has given me, I have found that even when something hurts you terribly, you can still find joy in the situation. I find joy in knowing my loved one is free from hurting. My family member for months and months without knowledge of knowing really what was wrong. It is not fun to lose someone you deeply care about, but God will give you the peace you need. I don't just speak these words because I have an intellectual understanding the Bible tells me it will be true. I can tell you he will do it because he's done it for me. And he's no respect of persons. So he is owed it gives me chills. He is owed my deepest appreciation. He will give you a peace, and I think of the Bible verse, his word tells us, that passes understanding. People may not even understand why you handle a situation the way you do, but it's an opportunity not to uplift yourself, but to show your appreciation in your narrative before other people that there's a God who helps you be that way. So I invite each of you again, I'll repeat it. If you wish, as I give examples, maybe you can think of your own life stuff. Some of you may have experienced similar things. But as you reflect on God's blessings in your own lives, and not that you don't already do this, but to reflect on individuals, instances, maybe it's possessions that you appreciate. But the thing I know is I can only speak for myself. So as I do this lesson, I'm not trying to pull from you necessarily right now. I'm not. I'm only sharing from my personal narrative, my personal walk with the Lord. And when I think of the concept of appreciation, I'm reflected on my life. I invite you to reflect on yours. I began with my appreciation for God and his goodness. Now, why would I begin that way? Because that's from whom all blessings flow. I would have nothing without him. As I said, I have my very breath because he allows it. But my appreciation for him, I feel, can be magnified by my appreciation for what he's done for my life. When I appreciate something he does for me or he's allowed in my life, I feel like that's showing him appreciation too, because I wouldn't have that blessing without his guidance. I wouldn't have the other aspects if it wasn't for his goodness. And I want to recognize that by God's grace as long as I live. So in Genesis chapter 2, in verse 18, and the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him." Well, some of us found that companion a little later in life. That would be me. But when I think about what I have to be appreciative of, it's easy for me to think first of Rhonda Ray. I am thankful for my wife. I appreciate her. When I show her my appreciation, I feel I honor God. I might choke up by thanking him for sending her my way. When I show her kindness, I feel I show him, Father, I appreciate your gift. When I treat her as a treasure that she is, I feel I show the Lord, I thank you for your gift. She deserves demonstrations, not to uplift her. I'm not trying to embarrass her either, but she deserves my appreciation. I married at a more advanced age, we'll say it that way, than other people. And as a result, now this is my narrative. This isn't most of your narratives. Some of you married at much younger ages. I feel I approach the expectations of having a marriage differently than someone much younger than me. Now, I'm not saying that my approach was better or correct. It's just I'm at a different age. And many people much younger may take a similar approach. I don't know. But here's what I know. As my wife calls her, Sister Dale. She gets tangled and calls her Sister Dale. Here's what I know, Sister Dale, that my priorities in my 40s are vastly different than my priorities in my 20s. So many things you encounter with someone else in life. I have a perspective of age. They are so superficial. Many aspects that you might focus on. I'm not saying all young people do, but when you're younger, so many things are really superficial, things that you think matter. But when you're older, I feel like you kind of bring the advantage of life experience and age, and you kind of know some of the issues that are much more important, like health insurance, right, Rhonda Ray? That's a giggle. She knows what I'm talking about. But here's what I know in my narrative as I express my appreciation this morning to God. As the lesson is a Sunday school lesson, I'm inviting you to think for yourselves. I prayed for 3 traits in a spouse. Some of you may not know this. And God, out of his great mercy and love for me, and I appreciate him forever, he granted me all 3. So what were those 3 things a 40-something-year-old man, bachelor, would want in a wife? Well, here's what I have found, and I'll tell them in a minute. Rhonda Ray not only complements my walk with the Lord, she makes me a better person. She helps me when something is a struggle. She loves me through trials. There was a night, there was a week, I had a really hard week missing my sister, and I'm not ashamed to say that. There is no weakness in loving, there is no weakness in grieving. It's natural. And one night, I basically cried myself to sleep. Rhonda Ray scooted up against me like she does most nights, and she cuddled me. I did not need words because she understood there wasn't really anything she could say to take it away. I needed to feel it, and that was all right. She will speak plainly to me when I need it, and she'll speak truth to the matter, and I appreciate that more than I can say. So I prayed for what were those three things? If you don't know, some of you may remember them. I don't know. I prayed for someone who would be kind and easygoing. I prayed for somebody like that, someone who would be kind and easygoing. I prayed for someone. I asked the Lord for someone who would come to church with me. And I asked the Lord for someone who would be a friend to my sister who had hurt so badly through the losses of our family. So I've talked about how she complements my walk with the Lord. Second one, I prayed for someone who would be kind and easygoing. And he gave me, I feel, a wife with a heart of gold. In Ephesians 4:32, and be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. I witnessed through my years of singlehood, married people who were extremely rude to their spouse. I'm not offering judgment, I'm offering observation. That's fair. I can state what I saw. They were mean. They did not care the tone with which they took to their spouse, and they didn't care that it was in front of other people. They can talk condescendingly and hateful. It's almost as if sometimes I questioned, do they even like their spouse? It really kind of made me sick. And while I was single, there's something else that made me think, don't want nothing to do with that. I'd have rather had no one than the wrong one, because I was living okay with no one. But I'm glad he gave me someone. And not just someone, the one. For that, I'm thankful. My wife's parents and my parents are both dead and gone. We don't have, we don't have a lot of family in that respect, and we don't have our parents. So my wife can't run to her mother and talk about me. I can't run to a parent and talk about her. Plus, I don't feel that either one of us would want to do that. Something age teaches you is you can reconcile situations with the one you care about, and you can take it up with the person. I told the story about my mama when I had a family member love their little heart seeking validation, and all my mama said, and her wisdom was, well, that's what you say. She didn't validate it. She didn't console it. She put it back on them and left it alone as it should have been. Rhonda Ray is a sacred topic to me. In other words, don't go there. If someone, you know what I'm saying, like if with somebody, if someone for some reason felt they could freely offer critique or hateful words, God bless you. What was it that sister told us? I'll shake your frame in Jesus' name. No, I'm just kidding. I'll still be saved. No, she is a sacred topic. And I appreciate her more than words I could ever express. She is kind to my family. I'm not uplifting her. I'm telling you my narrative. She is kind to my friends, and she's kind to me. If I need to be put in my place, Rhonda Ray can do it. But she does it because she loves me, because I need it. Because she married somebody who'd been single and very independent for a very long time. She took that on, God bless her. She doesn't try to embarrass me in front of others with harsh words and hateful actions. Why? She loves me. And God honored my prayer, and I will forever be appreciative. I got a wife who is easygoing and kind, and I appreciate God for such a wife. In 1 Peter 3:7, likewise ye husbands dwell with them according to knowledge, giving what unto the wife? Orders? Does it say giving orders unto the wife? It says giving honor, as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. When I think of my role as husband, and I think of the appreciation I have to God that He allowed me that title for a large chunk of my adult life. I remember it had for some reason in this revival it kind of hit me. Brother Dishman has known me my entire adult life. I've known him. So as I do a lesson here, there's a little edge of I don't want to disappoint Brother Dishman because he's known me my adult life and been an integral role because part of my family got saved as a result of Brother Dishman visiting and preaching to the congregation. But when I think of my role as a husband and leader in the home, I don't view myself as Rhonda Ray's boss. That is dangerously immature. My Rhonda Ray is a confident, intelligent woman who deserves my love, my support, my encouragement. And when I think about God's expectation for me to be the head of the home, for me, it simply means I have a greater responsibility to my wife to help make sure that our lives are in line with God. I do not feel it makes me her supervisor or her suppressor. I feel it's a difficult decision needs to be made, and she defers to me as the husband. Then I owe her double honor and double appreciation to make sure the decision we agree upon will make sure that she is taken care of first. Not me, her. I don't know what it's like to be married young, but if someone thinks marriage is, well, I'm going to roll my roast with a heavy hand, she better not get out of line, then I have a message they need to listen to. It's by Brother Dishman about maturity. And I would highly recommend the person listen. I married her for godly companionship, and I owe the Lord deep appreciation for bringing her into my life. She deserves to be treated with love and respect. So I asked the Lord for someone who would worship with me, and she's like-minded in the truth. I asked the Lord for somebody who would be easygoing and not hateful, and He granted that prayer request to me. I think about that, and I owe Rhonda Ray my very life if it need be. I owe her my deepest appreciation, and she should never feel undervalued and taken advantage of. She should never feel beaten down and oppressed. And that's because, to me, that's not even Christ-like. She's the one I want to love until my dying breath. And she deserves for me to be a head of the home that considers her needs and wants as much as possible. Doesn't mean she nor I get everything we want, but that we get what is best in light of God's direction. We don't have everything we want. There are certain items that we make a commitment to because it's in God's word it be a commitment financially. Well, that dictates everything else, but we do that together. I have a greater responsibility in a home ordained by God so that I can love her the way God expects me to. And I appreciate God for placing her in my life. The last thing I asked for in a wife, when I prayed, I would bow and pray and say, Lord, people will often offer their opinions and they offer their advice. Some people suffer from CAG, chronic advice giving. And whether you ask for it or not, they think you are waiting to hear it. Well, I'm not. But anyway, I try to be respectful if it's given. But there were times, and I know what people meant, and they meant well. Well, you need to put some legs behind it. Don't you need to try harder? Brother Dishman, this is something I knew because I knew me and my narrative in life. If somebody was going to pick somebody and could screw it up, it'd be Danny Eldreth. Because I can get in my flesh just like anybody else. Just because I married later and I hadn't been married before, you can't idealize somebody's life and decisions. You put them somewhere that's not fair. We are all capable of failure. And I know what I needed, and I needed God's help. And it led to Rhonda Ray. So who's disappointed? I don't see any hands. So good. But one of the things I prayed for when I asked God for a wife was someone who would be a friend to my sister Carolyn. And these are the three things. I'm not going to make it. These are my priorities. My poor Carolyn, she mourned the losses of our mother and sister deeply for years. She lost our nephew, who was basically like a son to her, so much like a son. His birth mother honored my sister through the process of his burial and everything. Without ego, she honored and included her. And so these last few years of her life, she just encountered so much tragedy, and it just like a piece of her broke. Those who knew her before these tragedies it's like something in her faded and was lost in her happiness. I guess someone could say, well, didn't you go through the same hurts too? Yeah, but it broke her much more. It broke my heart for her much more than for myself. So when I asked the Lord if it would be his will to send me a companion, I did ask him if it'd be someone who would be a friend to my sister. And I owe him deep appreciation because he answered my third and final request. My sister would laugh with Rhonda Ray. My sister would confide in Rhonda Ray. She had a confidant now. My sister would hang out just to be with her. My sister would stay in our home and she would eat so much more heartily because she loved Rhonda Ray's cooking. My sister, I say with full confidence, loved Rhonda Ray. And Rhonda Ray loved my sister. She became, Brother Dale, she became her friend. And when you marry someone, you don't just marry the individual, do you? In a sense, you marry their family. And Rhonda Ray embraced my family as her own with genuine love, and I've tried to do my best to love her family and make sure Rhonda Ray knows they're as much of a priority as my own. But my sister suffered, some were not here during that time, back pain, and her body worsened. It was due to the cancer we didn't know about. But Rhonda Ray began giving her care that was much more intimate and intricate to my sister. It was a very personal level of care. And she did so with love. Rhonda Ray did not look at me, though she could have if she had needed to. She didn't look at me and say, Danny, I'm not comfortable with this. She didn't look at me and say, though she could have, Danny, this is just too much. Instead, she cared for my sister's personal needs. She loved her. She tried to encourage her and push her to keep trying. And I'll forever be grateful for Rhonda Ray's kindness to my sister. As we sat with Carolyn at Duke on May 15th, 2024, at 5:56 a.m., I had the comfort and love, only by God's grace, of a godly companion as my sister, my last remaining sister, passed from this life to her eternal reward. And as long as I have my right mind, I will always appreciate God for that generosity and kindness to my life. I don't deserve anything he does for me, but I am so, so grateful. And each of you have your own story, your own experiences, your own loves. And there are things in life that are easy to be frustrations. Again, I did not marry young, but I know how much I've changed as an adult. So rather than become who I am as an adult, plus a spouse with me doing the same thing, I kind of became me, and now I can modify and alter as need be at a very different age with Rhonda Ray. But I'm very appreciative for God this morning, for his goodness, for his love. And I think sometimes it's just a good reminder as my lesson to reflect on God's goodness. Even when times are good and you're not going through anything bad, I think personally it's good sometimes if you pray, just to pray thanking him and ask for nothing. Just to have a prayer where I say, Lord, I'm not even going to ask you for anything. I'm just going to say thank you. And many of you, all of you may do that. I think times will they always be easy? No. But I'm thankful there's a promise he will never leave or forsake us. And I appreciate that. So, on the topic of appreciation, this month, as Brother Dishman reminded us one night, is what? Pastor Appreciation Month. So today, we will demonstrate our thanks to Pastor Allen. I'm not a preacher. I'm certainly not a pastor, and I'm definitely not a preacher. I'm just a lowly teacher. But when I think about the many, many hats that people in leadership wear, and often I have found in leadership roles that people have, whether it's been, you may know this too from your own personal lives when you've had a leadership role somewhere. A lot of times there's duties behind the scenes without expectation of anything for sure. But I do think it's wonderful that there is a special time set aside to honor those who desire to honor God by leading his flock. There's nothing wrong with that. It is a wonderful thing. So Pastor Allen will come here. Now I'm going to do my best with this part. Somebody can correct me if needed. This is the simple part. We love you. And that's from the congregation. Sister Debbie couldn't come downstairs this morning. I wasn't being rude if you were up here and heard me say, no, no, no. Because there's a surprise for her down there. She is his wife, so she needs a little something special too. So this book here is a special memory book that's going to be given to him. My wife has a list of suggested, but you don't have to do this. She has a few suggestions, and she had some visitors who were here who've known him for many, many years, include their own thoughts in this book already. So, not to be morbid, we're not equating the two scenarios, but when my sister passed, she had a special little book she hadn't got to use, my wife had given her, and didn't you find where she'd been using it some? And so the thought came to me when we had her little celebration of life thing downstairs. Carolyn loved a good food event. So we did that for, we celebrated for her. I had the little book where people could write memories. Now, I haven't read it yet. Maybe one day I'll get there. God will give me the grace when I'm able to open it and read through them. Will you write something special for him to read through later? I haven't written in it yet either, but it'll be downstairs, ready for you. Oh, you can't have that yet. But she was hoping you would remain anonymous. See if he can figure out who wrote the memory.
Amen. That's a good lesson this morning. Good lesson. I tell you, appreciation always encourages somebody if they know you appreciate them and press forward that way with things. It's always a good thing. And just to be clear, we appreciate Brother Allen before Brother Dishman said that. Yeah. That was a good reminder, but we ain't gonna let him slip by. We may hold him to the last day of the month, but we'll get him. We'll get him. Thank the Lord. We do appreciate it. All right, we'll take a little bit of a break and then we'll move on with the service shortly.